Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Education 101. I'm Carol Birdsong, Communications Director for Williamson County Schools, and we are talking during this program with Williamson County School Board member Gary Anderson, who represents District 5.
Thank you.
My co-host is Superintendent Dr. Mike Looney. I hope you are prepared for all the questions that you are going to be asked, Mr. Anderson.
I hope so too. Don't want to be embarrassed.
maybe Gary should be asking the questions today.
We can do that.
Well, we're going to start with the toughest one of all. How long have you served on the Williamson County Board of Education?
I was elected in 1990, so I'm in my 25th year right now being on the school board.
Is that a record for Williamson County Schools?
I don't really know. It should be if it isn't.
You've seen a lot of changes. Some of that really in the schools that you represent. We were talking before we began taping that you have one of the larger areas, I guess, as far as schools that you represent. So tell the viewers kind of geographically where you're...
Sure. The 5th District consists of East Brentwood down through Nolensville all the way down to College Grove. It's pretty much the eastern side of Williamson County. So it encompasses quite a few schools all the way up on the upper east side all the way down to College Grove.
So the Sunset School, Sunset Elementary, Sunset Middle.
and Ravenwood and Nolensville, the new Nolensville schools. We touch some of Clovercroft, some of Trinity, Page, Middle Page High, and of course College Grove.
That is a huge portion of the county. Mr. Anderson, you've seen a lot of growth happening over time, and I know that in your particular district there's a lot of school construction projects taking place. Let's just start with College Grove. We're adding a new wing to College Grove, but you had mentioned this past weekend when we were talking to some school board members in our retreat about the design of College Grove and how it was intentionally designed to be added onto. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Back when we built College Grove, the intention there was that we knew we would be growing, but not right away. So we built the core facility for the school, which means cafeteria, office area, library, gymnasium. We built it big enough to handle another wing. So we could add 200 more student capacity, or basically, say up to 8 to 10 classrooms without any issue. And we made that decision back then. The county commission supported that. And so now we're ready to add to that school because the growth is coming there.
It's really good forward planning. Do you think that as we approach new construction projects, that's something that we need to be focused on, making sure that we have enough core space to add on at later times?
Yes, depending on the area, because some of the core facilities we need to build to capacity as well as the classroom wings right away. For example, since the sewer came down through Nolensville area, that area is growing so fast. You build it, you get it open, you're going to be opening up a new school not too many years later. But in the slower areas, the more rural areas, that's a good idea to do it that way until the developers discover those areas and start building there. One of the issues we've had is builders will determine that they're going to have X number of lots, but we don't know how fast they're going to build them out. Right. And so it takes time to figure out when they're going to actually start construction, how many people will be in, what's the price point of the home that's going to be sold. Will it be young families? Will it be families that are more established, professional families? It just really depends on a lot of different things. But to answer your question, yes, in certain areas, and we need to build a capacity in some of the other areas right away.
Sure. Now, I know that when I first got here, you and I had multiple conversations about how Nolensville was going to continue to grow, and so one of your favorite projects that you've been engaged in since I've been here, and as far as school construction goes, is Nolensville High School is about to become a reality.
Yes,
it's been a long journey, but we're about halfway through with that project. What do you think Nolensville High School and the associated middle school and elementary school, Mill Creek and Elementary and Middle, are going to mean to the Nolensville community? What are you looking most forward to?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. When I came to the community, Nolensville first went to Franklin High School, then it went to Brentwood High School, then it went to Page High School. So Nolensville's always traveled great distances to go to their high school. Having one, and then Ravenwood came, and that was another breath of fresh air to the community. Sure. And now that that's full, Nolensville is going to be wonderful for the community right there. What I see coming is Nolensville is a mixture of suburban life and a lot of rural life. And so you're going to have a good mix of students coming into that school, which I think will be beneficial. Also the proximity to MTSU, and the ability to join up with some of their extended learning opportunities, I think will be tremendous for our career technical fields over there. So we have a good mix of students that are coming into that school.
It's a beautiful campus. I can't believe the rooftops that are going up right around the school facility already. And one of the things that I've noticed is when you start building a school in the community, houses start going up right next to the school almost immediately. And so it's just amazing to me, the metamorphosis that takes place in that community. And you actually going to live pretty close to Knowlesville High School, so I guess you'll probably hear the band practicing in the afternoons.
I'll hear the band, I'll see the lights from the football field, sure will.
Awesome.
And grandchildren, won't your grandchildren end up going through that
Yes,
pattern?
I have grandchildren who right now go to Nolensville Elementary and Sunset Middle, and they will all be tracking now to, they'll stay at Nolensville Elementary, but then they'll track over to Mill Creek Middle and then to the high school. Okay. So yes, I have 3 grandchildren who live right there that'll track on through. And my kids went through all Williamson County schools, their entire education, so I have a very good, strong feeling about what we do in Williamson County.
Sure.
And I would like to also mention that you kind of bring a different perspective to the school board. Not only have your children gone through, your daughter teaches for the school district, but you actually work for a school district yourself in Murfreesboro, and so you kind of have a different viewpoint, I would guess, and bring that to the table during the board discussions.
I see my responsibility in the other district is finance and administrative services, which basically means I'm over every department other than instruction, human resources, and extended school. I'm over all the other departments. So I see a whole lot of things that come in. Of course, I attend all the board meetings there as well. So my perspective is running a district that's 8,000 capacity, and believe it or not, 8,000 students now is like one of the top 25. Williamson County is one of the top tiers in the number of students. But having a school district that big means that we don't have all the number of support areas that we're fortunate to have here, but it lets us get involved with a lot of things. So yes, I bring a perspective of an administrator in another district and my business as a board member here, and that actually helps me in my job there, and I think in my boardmanship here. I think it helps on both fronts.
I know you and our CFO exchanged notes about things that are coming down from the state and the complex BEP formula and that sort of thing. And so since we're talking about money, I can't help but mention the fact that you were an ardent supporter of the school budget and the 5% pay raise for our employees. Talk about that a little bit. How important was that to you, and talk about your experience going through that process.
Sure. In Williamson County, as you know, we're the #1 district in per capita income, and yet our teachers were ranked anywhere from 12 to 14 to 16 in state. So I was a firm believer that for us to attract, keep the best, we need to be making sure we're in the top tier of the pay structure. So I would like to see us get somewhere in the top 5 if we could. I know some are going to be city school systems or special school districts that we're not going to be able to catch up with, but Williamson County is a wonderful place to live, and I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to live here who actually work here. So yes, I'm very big supporter to make sure our teachers and our staff, everybody gets paid as much as we possibly can afford in Williamson County.
I know too, you are very partial, I would say, to all of the classified folks as well. Naturally, you work with food service, and you have for years, and transportation and stuff, and talk about that and how important the classified staff is to the success of our school district.
Yes, everyone sees in education, they see teachers, they see principals, they see top-line administrators. What they don't see all the time are the bus drivers, the food service people, the maintenance people, the technology people. They don't see all those people. If we shut down any one of those things, the school system shuts down. If we don't bring kids to school, we can't have school. We don't have the food service feeding the kids. We can't have school. We have the HVAC system shuts down, or we get sewer clogs. Their support is so tremendous to the districts. But basically, the way we look at it, and I know Williamson County does, is that the teachers are out there educating the students, and the support people there to support the teachers so they can. So they're not worried about that the temperature is the wrong temperature, the computers don't work, the kids are hungry, they're not getting to school on time. Those are the importance of the support areas to any school district, and I know here it's a priority. I know as we struggle to get bus drivers here, there's a constant move to try to make things best so we can make sure that that's covered. That's an issue in every district in the state of Tennessee. That's not unique to Williamson County having that problem. We do have some award-winning programs, I know here. Your food service program is award-winning. The technology is on top of the list. So there's wonderful things that are going on in Williamson County that I hope all the parents recognize, not only the great teachers we have, but also to support people that make that possible for them to do that great job.
Interesting. Now, Gary, 25 years of experience as a school board member.
Yes.
That's an incredible amount of time. I know that you've seen a lot of change take place over the course of your boardsmanship. Talk to us about the future, though. What do you see as some of our challenges as a school district, as a school community moving forward, given that you have this rich history of experience?
One of the things that's always kept Williamson County up on top is the fact that we have gotten the support of the county commission, we've gotten the support of the community, we've gotten the support of the parents, and all that support comes with all the growth that we experience. One of our biggest issues is going to continue to be growth, going to continue to be the funding to support that. Getting everyone cohesive on the same page, that we're all struggling and going towards the same goals. We have our plan of our 5-year goals, and we keep working towards that every month. That's brought to the board. Here's where you are in the plan. Here's this piece. Here's that piece. And we'll look at it again in a few years and look at what do we need to tweak on that. What do we need to keep going? But growth and money is going to be critical to us. We are already considered not only a good district, we're a great district, we're a world-class district. Continue that's going to take everyone knowing that we're going to have issues with growth. It's going to continue. Everyone wants to live here. I moved here 30 years ago just for the fact of believing in going to a school in your own community.
Right.
And that's a critical piece to all of us. But looking for growth, looking for the financing and the continued support of the community, that we can make sure that we get the best and brightest to educate our students.
Let's talk about relationships too, because I know that you have worked hard over the years to build relationships with your county commissioners, especially in your area, and with the city of Nolensville folks and those elected officials. Talk about how important that is to the success of the district.
Well, everyone has to understand that we need funds to operate. Everyone knows that. But developing the personal relationships with them to be able to explain to them, hey, here's our issue, here's our concern, that because Williamson County schools are so good, people want to come here and live here. So as long as we keep that going, we can keep the district moving forward. The relationship not only with board members and commissioners and other elected officials, just regular community relationships with PTO families, with the teachers. I love to walk into a school and the teachers say, hey, come here, I want to show you this. Yeah. Or, hey, we're having a special luncheon, teachers are bringing potluck on Thursday, why don't you come on over? That makes me feel really good to know that they feel comfortable enough for me to be able to walk into their school knowing that they want to show me things that are going on. So I really like that. And when parents recognize you and say, hey, thanks for doing this, or hey, do you think we could work on that? That's very heartwarming to me to see that. And that's one of the reasons I keep coming. I feel I can still add value to the district as I'm going. Because one of the first reasons I ran was we did not have, in 1990, we did not have art teachers and music teachers in elementary school.
Wow.
We did not, and that was one of the first issues I ran on. I learned very quickly it takes time to develop this and work, and it's not something you can happen overnight. It takes time to get that done, and over time we did. And now we're looking at foreign languages. The district tried that years ago. It failed in how we did it. I think the way we're approaching it now is much more comprehensive and a cohesive plan to make it successful.
Right.
So all those things and developing those relationships will let people know, hey, we do need money. We do have to keep growing, and to keep us number one, it's going to take that.
I want to talk about something I know might be your favorite topic: sports. You're a hockey guy.
Here we go.
Yes, I love hockey. I love
softball.
I love baseball, softball. I follow my grandson around in travel hockey. I coach my granddaughter in softball. I coach my daughter in softball. My son in baseball. Yes, I love sports. Yes.
Well, I know one of the items that you actually led in Williamson County is getting us to a place where the non-TSSAA sports programs, the students could participate in those programs and receive PE credit,
right?
In lieu of walking around a track, in a high school for an elective.
Right.
You kind of led the charge on that. And so, talk just a little bit about your mindset and what you see, how you see that benefiting boys and girls.
Well, what I saw was kind of multifaceted. One is there's a lot of kids who play hockey, rugby, lacrosse, things like that, that they're putting in hours upon hours upon hours of physical training, activity, and being really engaged in the sport. So that versus getting credit for, like you said, walking a track or some other kind of thing, I thought, well, we could really use that time for the student to be in some elective class rather than taking something they're already getting plenty of physical activity, more than the average student would be. So I looked at it as, yes, we're covering the physical activity part on this side, but on the other side, there's opportunities for more elective courses for these kids to take. And I just saw it as a win-win for the district. I knew we had issues with insurance and recognition and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, you worked through that, you got it to work for the kids, and I think it'd be a good thing to continue.
Well, I think as a result of your leadership, to be quite frank with you, I actually think that we've kind of set a model forward for the state, because as you said, they might be doing 30 or 40 hours of physical activity in a week's time, practicing the sport of their choice, gymnastics or whatever it might be, and to think that they're not learning about physical education or not active seems kind of preposterous now that we're looking in the rearview mirror instead of in the front. So I really do appreciate that.
Okay, you're talking about sports, but I know something else that is very near and dear to his heart, and that's the arts.
Yes.
Gary was in the band.
I was in the band
when he was in high school.
Yes.
And I believe he has a budding thespian on his hand. His granddaughter is. It's really kind of tearing him up between softball
and being
and
a
the
cheerleader,
stage and being a cheerleader. But fine arts are very very important to you. You're very passionate about the arts. You go to see a lot of plays and stuff.
I go to the plays. I go to the concerts with my grandkids to take them to see these things. And of course, since I have a granddaughter interested in the theater stuff, she went to an Encore camp this past week, and she did all those things that led into that, all kinds of entertainment things. And my son is an architect, and he took all these art classes in school, and I thought he was just trying to get out of doing some physics or something like that. And he said, I'm going to be an architect. I need to know how to draw. So he took that. So yes, when people look at arts, they're only looking at a certain aspect. They don't realize the depth of what it can do for kids in the schools. And yes, I was in band, and I played sports too, so I kind of had two worlds there to deal with. And I saw, well, there's value to all of that. And I was not in the theater, but I do act all the time.
You are quite the actor. But I do believe that the grandchildren are going to pick that. And I know your youngest has actually been in. No, not the youngest grandchild anymore, right? Now she's middle grandchild, I guess. Has actually been in a play at Page High School, even though she's a student.
She was a first grade student, and she was in the high school play. Of course, it lent itself to the play, the Christmas.
It's a wonderful life. Wonderful Life is what it was.
So is that part of your success? Is you focus on athletics, the arts, and academics? Do you attribute that focus, those three prongs, to be kind of your story of success as a school board member, survival for that long?
I think the focus, when we decide as a board to go with the arts, athletic, and academic, I says that is perfect, because when you just look at academics, you're missing the whole child and all the other aspects that we could have for a student. And so if I have one child who wants to do art, one child who wants to do this one, I'm saying I'm missing the boat if I do not cover all those aspects of the kids. So yeah, that's what makes it exciting about being here and being in Williamson County, being a board member. We can actually make that happen.
You know, you were talking about Encore camps. Our viewers may not know what Encore is, and I can't remember how many years have we had that in place. I'm going to, either one of you, I can't remember, several now, but not that many. And it truly was modeled after Franklin Special's Young Scholars program, and we decided that we were going to do that as well. But I think we've got Encore camps in many, if not most of our elementary schools. So talk about how important those enrichment opportunities are for students.
Well, let me give you an example of the Encore camp. They had one, and now remember she was a second grader, and they had one called Frozen. So all the kids are going to be tied into thinking Anna and
He's watched Frozen several times. I'm just gonna.
He
may be too old out of the Frozen range. I don't know if he knows what that is.
I escaped the Frozen era.
Okay, well anyway.
Well, I had having this little granddaughter. I took her to see Disney on Ice, Frozen, and so I go to this show, and there's 10,000 little girls in blue dresses. I said, that's it. I was one of the few dads that were there, or granddads that were there, and so it was just interesting to see all that. But what they do is they taught the kids not only they obviously introduced it with the Frozen theme, they taught about science, they taught about ice, they taught about water, they taught about how to make fire. I thought, what a unique way to first grab them in and then extend that learning. What, you know, all the studies show that the long periods of time kids could possibly regress or lose some of their academic gains. This is a wonderful way to do it. It's like our own little summer camps of enrichment. And the thing about it is they're teaching the kids, and the kids don't really feel like it's a typical school or classroom because they're learning all these neat things.
Yeah, very good.
All right, time for the tough question.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
You've been a board member for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
What's some of your proudest?
Got your pen?
Give me the top 3 of your proudest moments as a school board member in Williamson County.
Okay, probably number one would be the fact that when I got elected, I was able to eventually get the music and art. That was probably the number one. Another one that was, again, early in my career was when we did the family life curriculum. And that was really one of the first things I sunk my teeth into and worked on and spent many a day, many a night. And we made the family life curriculum for our district, and ended up being partly of a district-wide and a state model. And it was so intense at that time with all the state rules and regs. And if you notice now, it's hardly ever talked about or done. It's already done. I guess the other thing is the fact that my first election when I ran in 90 was a 2-year. That's when the county commission determined to split us into terms. Odd numbers only had a 2-year election that year. Even numbers had a 4-year, and that way we always was staged after that as a 4-year. That was the year it started. So I was a 2-year board. Probably the fact that I've won 7 elections to do that is a proud point for me. As far as the district goes, the fact that we have taken this district from, like I said earlier, good to great to world class, that I feel that the pride that I have when I go into community and speak to people and they say, well, thank you for your service and stuff, that makes me very proud to know that we've been able to take the district that far.
Well, I do know that I think every staff member has you on speed dial because you're the archives. So when somebody wants to know something about something or why something had happened, they call Gary Anderson. That must be that must feel good for you.
It does feel good for me, and I have to think back on all the things, but a lot of times we look at policies and I can say, well, at the time that policy was written, this is what was going on. And it may not be appropriate today. We may need to change them. But a lot of times people say, well, that's stupid. And I would say, well, really, it seems like it needs to be changed now, but back then that was exactly what needed to be done at that moment in time. And part of the learning process there is to know that school systems do change. They have to change. They have to continue to get better, or we're going to go stagnant or go backwards.
How many students did we have when you first got elected? Do you remember?
When I first got elected, it was less than 10,000.
Wow.
Now we have over 35, so the difference there is 25,000. Been there 25 years. That's an average of 1,000 a year, and it goes from anywhere from 600 or 800 all the way up to 1,200, 1,400. But the average has been 1,000. So,
do you remember how many schools there were back then when you started?
It was in the teens. It was in the teens.
Well, Nolensville went to. Did you say Franklin?
Franklin. Wow.
That was quite a commute.
Well, back when that was right before I started on the board. When I was on the board, Nolensville went to Brentwood and Page. We actually split Nolensville Elementary because Nolensville Elementary went all the way up to Edmondson Pike and went all the way down to just north of College Grove.
Wow,
it was a huge district. And so kids who lived on the north side could go to Brentwood, kids on the south side could go to Page, or for a few years they could actually go to either one no matter where they lived. Either way, it was a very long stretch for those kids.
Yeah, I don't know what the road network was like then, but I know even today that's a pretty complicated road network to find an easy way to get to those two locations from Nolensville.
It is.
I know another thing that you actually have done in your time on the board, and that is the PTO Leadership Council, because parent involvement is pretty important to you.
PTO leadership, I started getting engaged with schools by being on the PTO and volunteering. I would help do the fundraisers. And I was one of the few guys who was there doing all that. But back then they assigned someone to go be part of the Williamson County PTO Leadership Organization. So we would go to those meetings, and we'd come to the central office, and the superintendent would have different departments talk to us about different things going on. And so we learned a whole lot. In fact, we developed the calendar that goes out now with everything on it and the pictures. That was one of the first things we did. This group was one of the first groups that pushed the 20-to-1 pupil-teacher ratio. And so I'd come back and report back to my PTO and to the families there. Well, the teacher started asking me, why don't you run for school board? Why don't you do it? Because you really like this. And I says, well, I never really thought about it. I didn't grow up thinking I want to be a school board member. Well, as I started getting engaged with it, the gentleman who was at the time representing Nolensville had decided to go for the county commission. So it was an open seat.
Sure.
So I decided that's what made me run. But my first engagement was with PTOs, and a lot of people come to being on the school board through that engagement.
Well, that's true. I think if we look back historically, there are a lot of folks who come through that. PTO leadership kind of went away for a while.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Looney brought it back after consulting with you guys, and
It's a good idea.
It's
We
a
revived it.
Wonderful idea. We love our
It's
parental
good because
engagement.
they can help each other know, hey, this fundraiser works, this doesn't work, and we get a lot of money that comes into individual schools through our PTO organizations, and we want to make sure everybody realizes that Williamson County is as good as it is, but also that parental involvement really helps.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago, we used to track hours of parental involvement in our schools, and it was very interesting to see that the two schools that had the highest TCAP scores had the most parental involvement in those schools. I thought, that's really interesting. Now, we don't track it the same way anymore, but back then in the olden days, this is 20 years ago, that was a very interesting statistic for me to see. Parental involvement in the schools, reading to kids, volunteering, that really helped those schools.
Yeah, thousands and thousands of hours our parents give to our schools.
And millions of dollars.
Millions of
last year
dollars.
alone, $7 million of parental support in the way of
tremendous.
fundraisers and PTO.
We have about a minute left,
Okay.
a little bit over. What final comments? What would you share with the viewers in your area and with I guess all Williamson County?
I would want to let people know that the value they get for an education in Williamson County, for what they pay in taxes and all the things, is so good when you consider how many scholarships we get at the high school level and what the cost is for if you were going to go, say, to a different school setting. Our value is tremendous to our community. We are the ones who bring in, because of our reputation, who bring in the businesses who move here, who want to be here because of our public school system. And public schools are so valuable to what goes on in the state of Tennessee, and Williamson County is number one.
And when you hear Mayor Rogers Anderson speak, or Matt Largen with the Williamson Inc. Chamber of Commerce, Williamson County Chamber of Commerce, that is exactly what they say. That business is booming in Williamson County because of Williamson County schools.
Yes, and I'm very proud of that. I know Dr. Looney is, and
Sure
I know
am,
you
sure
are.
am.
I'm sure everyone is in
So
Williamson
Gary,
County.
if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do? They find you at the hockey ring, or
I'm at that hockey rink probably 2 or 3 nights a week over here at A Game. But my email address is garya@wcs.edu. is the easiest way to get a hold of me. Since I'm on the road most of the time, it's easier to get through email than anything else to get a hold of me.
Okay, you're easy to find. Well, thank you. This has been fun, kind of
Thank you.
reflecting and then.
Thank you for having us. It's a great idea. Love it. I think it's good for the community to hear about the school board members.
I do too. I think we may do it again. How's that sound?
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dr. Looney. And thank you for joining us for Education 101.
It may come as no surprise that when the economy is in decline, fraud is on the rise.
You have people who have been successful for the last 10 years, so they got a little something put away. Now, they took their expense account, they cut their overtime, so now they're looking to increase their earning potential. Business opportunities can boom in a recession and in a downturn of the economy.
Nobody in business is going to give you your money back if your business fails.
You never saw me in your life. You saw a commercial on TV, you got on the phone with me, you spoke to me for 10 seconds, I gave you some names to call, and I gave you some things to look up. And you called me back 3 days later, and you wrote me a check for $50,000. Does that sound a little screwed up?
People want to believe that there is some opportunity that they can invest in that will guarantee that they will have financial success. There is no such thing. There just is no sure deal. None.
The best advice I could give to anybody who's looking to purchase a business opportunity or purchase any investment over the phone is fast no's and slow yeses. Period, the end. Fast no's and slow yeses.